no other security other than Diddy security is allowed to be inside the building. I mean, I saw Jay-Z and TD Jakes in there. Every major celebrity you can think of who may or may not get along may be on the other side of that gate with no security. And so now as you see this unfold, my wonder is, well, why weren't people able to have their protection?
In this recording, she is screaming at him, saying that she'll kill him or that she'll have someone else take care of him and kill him. And it's a different side of Cassie that really none of us have ever heard before.
He told the jury he reached out to Combs after his car caught fire and described him with his hands behind his back like a Marvel supervillain. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges, and his defense team says any sexual encounters were all consensual.
Welcome to EliteEchoes, your front row seat to the secrets they've tried to bury. Here, we uncover the unspoken, decode the hidden messages, and expose the stories that never make the headlines. If you're ready to dive deep into the shadows of fame and power, you're in the right place. Hit that like, share with a friend who needs to hear this, and enjoy the video, because what's coming is nothing short of shocking. Now let's get into it. Day 8 of the Diddy trial wrapped up with a jaw-dropping moment. Prosecutors dropped the last known audio recording of Prince, buried deep in the secret case files. The courtroom froze. Diddy's legal dream team, Mark Agnew, Philo 10 Ergos, and Brian Steele, were completely blindsided. Nobody saw this coming. This bombshell audio had wild revelations that left the whole room stunned. We're talking leaked testimonies, some shady behind-the-scenes moves, and even whispers of a possible arson case. Yeah, it got that real? Now we're diving headfirst into everything that exploded during week 2 of Diddy's high-stakes trial.
First Diddy party I went to was at Prince's house. So you want to go to Prince's house to the Diddy party where Tyrese is performing and Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher are swinging on swings. That is what's happening on the other side of the wall. And so the one thing that makes this party different than a Jamie Foxx party or any other celebrity party that wrangles a bunch of young women or guys or whatever too, is that Diddy didn't let you bring your security in the party. That is the one thing that I thought was odd because I came one time with my security and no other security other than Diddy security is allowed to be inside the building. I mean, I saw Jay-Z and TD Jakes in there. Every major celebrity you can think of who may or may not get along may be on the other side of that gate with no security. And so now as you see this unfold, my wonder is, well, why weren't people able to have their protection?
Diddy threw one of his wild freak-off parties. But get this, it was at Prince's mansion, and Prince wasn't even there. He knew better than to get caught up in Diddy's chaos. Instead, Prince flipped the whole game on him. Hidden cameras were set up all over the place, recording every single thing Diddy did that night. Prince wasn't just watching. He was collecting receipts, planning to expose Sean Combs big time. Going up against the entire industry ain't for the weak, and Prince was ready to risk it all to bring the truth to light. On Thursday, prosecutors dropped another bombshell. An audio clip of Prince breaking down his whole plan and how he already knew Diddy would try to come for him. This wasn't just a warning, it was a declaration.
The recording ended with words that sent chills through the courtroom. If anything happens to me, make sure this gets to the right people. This isn't just about protecting myself, it's about protecting everyone who hasn't been able to speak between Diddy.
So Diddy was just eliminating his competition or anybody who got in his way. What a menace P. Diddy was. I feel blessed never having to encounter something as evil as him. All right, if you didn't know, now you know. There you have it. That's the scoop.
Before wrapping up her powerful testimony, Cassie dropped a major name, Usher. She said Usher witnessed Diddy beating her, violating her, and threatening her life. And still, he stayed silent. According to Cassie, Usher didn't just ignore it. He helped cover for Diddy and kept her quiet. While she screamed for help, Diddy's crew stood there like statues, watching him attack her and doing nothing to stop it. Even worse, prosecutors played chilling audio recordings where Cassie's terrified screams could be heard echoing in the background. The courtroom went dead silent. Jurors were left shaken by the raw and disturbing sound of what Cassie went through.
They actually played audio of Cassie screaming at a man named Sujit. This was after she had learned that he might have actually seen one of those freak-off videos. But in that audio recording, that Cassie actually was the one who recorded herself talking to Sujit. In this recording, she is screaming at him, saying that she'll kill him or that she'll have someone else take care of him and kill him. And it's a different side of Cassie that really none of us have ever heard before. I definitely don't think it's the last time that we're going to hear that audio recording. I think at some point we'll see the defense or even the prosecution circle back to that. The overall vibe today in the courtroom is that Combs' defense team is struggling. There's a lot of stopping and starting because the prosecutors are constantly objecting to the evidence that they're trying to admit. The judge is even getting frustrated at one point, saying that we need to set ground rules.
Prosecutors laid it all out for the jury. And what they revealed from Sean Combs' hotel room was wild. We're talking stacks of cash, illegal substances, weapons, and hundreds of bottles of baby oil. All of it seized the day he got arrested. This wasn't just messy, it screamed reckless.
Some pictures from when Diddy was arrested in September of last year at the Park Hyatt Hotel in New York. And a special agent with Homeland Security testified last week that some of the items found included baby oil, drugs, these pink packets of ketamine. There's also this image of a knife wedged in a door. Now, Combs, we aren't sure if he's going to be taking the stand in his own defense, but he denies all of the allegations against him. But will all of these witnesses really prove the government's charges that he was running this criminal empire and that he's guilty of trafficking?
It's clear Diddy wasn't feeling an ounce of guilt. Even after getting hit with serious charges, he was still out here throwing chaotic freak-offs. And it gets even more intense. Homeland Security confirmed that DNA from the hotel showed multiple women were in that room with him the day he was cuffed. This wasn't just a party. It was a whole situation.
NBC News, which had a reporter in the courtroom, she said, quote, Mr. Combs punched Cassie in the stomach. They were having a private conversation, and then he punched her in the stomach. She immediately leaned over and left. In addition to Usher Richard, who was a member of the girl group Danity Kane, which was formed on Combs' show Making the Band in 2004, alleged that other musicians, including singer Neo, record exec Jimmy Iovine, and rapper Big Daddy Kane were present as well. When Richard and Ventura got into a car to leave after the alleged restaurant incident, Richard said another physical altercation took place between Combs, who has pleaded not guilty to all charges.
One of the male escorts Diddy allegedly hired to harm Cassie has now testified, and what he revealed shook the courtroom. He described how Cassie would flinch and let out quiet sighs every time Diddy forced him to get close to her. The discomfort was written all over her face. Cassie also took the stand and opened up about the deep emotional toll. She said just the thought of being treated like an object made her stomach turn. She wasn't just humiliated, she felt trapped. And even though every part of her wanted to say no, the fear of what Diddy might do kept her silent. This wasn't consent. It was control, plain and simple.
Mr. Punisher testified that he was hired by Diddy and Cassie for 8 to 12 different times, things like episodes. And he was meant to create a sexy scene that would last for hours. He said that Diddy called all the shots in these episodes. He didn't call them freak-offs, but he described what we've heard as freak-offs. He never saw any cameras, he said. He didn't see any violence. And he said, although Cassie would sometimes wince or sigh at some of the sex directions that came from Diddy,
Cassie was feeling completely cut off, like she had no one. And that wasn't by accident. Diddy wanted her isolated. Anyone she tried to reach, he came after. Even her own mother. Cassie's mom took the stand and said she lived in constant fear for her daughter's life. She knew Diddy was dangerous. At one point, things got so twisted that Diddy allegedly told her she had to cough up $20,000 just to see Cassie alive.
They brought in Cassie's mom. She was on the stand today as well. She talked about having to take out a $20,000 loan just to prevent Diddy from putting out a sex tape that involved her daughter, Cassie.
That wasn't about money. Diddy had more than enough. It was all about power and humiliation. He wanted to break down Cassie's support system and leave her feeling completely alone.
Talk about some of those details that we heard as well. I mean, for any mother, this has to be a nightmare situation.
That's exactly right. And I think that was, you want to talk about effective and non-effective testimony. I think that was very effective because, again, to go back to what the defense is trying to paint here, that this was Cassie and she knowingly and wittingly went along with these things. But to hear mom say, look, I had to go and I had to come up with this money so I could pay Diddy to protect my daughter.
Diddy wasn't out here acting reckless. He knew exactly what he was doing. He allegedly humiliated Cassie in front of other people on purpose, just to send a message. Nobody around him was going to help her. Every move was calculated to break her down from the inside.
That goes against what the defense has said, and it, I think, shows that you've got somebody who was very worried about some of this material being seen by the public, and that doesn't sound like somebody who wittingly went along with some of the things that she was asked by her boyfriend to do. So I think that was very powerful testimony, and it certainly goes to show what the prosecution is trying to say, that, again, that Cassie was coerced into doing these things.
These weren't random acts. They were humiliation rituals, meant to strip Cassie of any support and make her feel completely alone. The goal? Make her believe she had no one to turn to, nowhere to run. At one point, Cassie even screamed out loud, begging someone, anyone, to help her. But not a single person stepped in. That silence was part of the plan, too.
Now, George eventually left because he said he was tired of hiding the domestic violence from everyone. So he's a former executive assistant to Combs, and he testified that he witnessed Combs be violent with Ventura while on that private jet in 2015. He did hear that glass break and saw Combs standing over Ventura. He told the jury that Ventura did scream, "Isn't anyone seeing this?" So that's been some of the testimony. He has testified to several incidents of domestic violence that he saw at the hands of Sean Combs toward Cassie.
Forensic psychologist Dr. Dawn Hughes took the stand and laid it all out. Her expert testimony painted a clear picture of just how deep Diddy's control over Cassie really ran. According to her, the abuse created a mental and emotional trap that made it nearly impossible for Cassie to walk away. She explained how survivors can end up stuck in toxic relationships, especially when manipulation and fear are used as weapons.
Not interview Cassie, any victims in this case. She was providing general testimony about victims of domestic abuse, how they cope, what different levels of abuse there are, how do people recover from it, the trauma they experience, really what was taking place in regard to the back and forth, the cross as well as the direct, was a lot of attacking by defense counsel as to her credibility and her qualification.
This gave jurors a powerful lens to understand what Cassie was dealing with and why she stayed. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team tried to shift the spotlight, bringing up his bipolar diagnosis and ongoing struggles with anger issues. But for the jury, the focus was already locked on the long-lasting damage Cassie endured.
We do have some testimony we can put up for you, though, on this when she was on the stand this morning. Let's go ahead and put that up, and I can tell you exactly a little bit more about it. So Hughes confirmed that she has never testified in the defense of a man accused of a sex crime. This was on the cross-examination. "I don't evaluate offenders," is what she responded with. Hughes maintained that prosecutors have not discussed specifics of this case with her. This cross-examination was done by an attorney named Mr. Bach. And you could tell Judge Ashley when he was doing his cross-examination, he is very skilled at cross-examining expert witnesses.
Mental health struggles like bipolar disorder don't give anyone a free pass. And they definitely don't excuse the serious accusations Diddy is facing. His team tried to spin the story, saying he was just a guy who took too many drugs and messed up. But that excuse doesn't hold up. This wasn't a one-time incident or a mistake in the heat of the moment. Cassie dealt with this for over a decade. That's years of alleged control, fear, and abuse. No diagnosis or drug excuse can wipe away that kind of pain. The scale of what she went through can't be minimized or brushed off, and the jury knows it.
Something interesting came up was when Combs' defense team referenced his bipolar disorder, and that's really the first time that we're hearing that he might actually have a diagnosed clinical condition. We know that he has talked about his temper, his mood swings. I mean, that's how he got his nickname, right? Puffy, because he huffs and he puffs. But it's no laughing matter. We know that he's capable of incredibly terrifying violence. Just take a look at that 2016 security footage of Cassie being brutally beaten by him. And so, now we're learning that perhaps he might have been on medication. He sought treatment, and he may have bipolar disorder.
When Cassie tried to move on and started seeing Kid Cudi, Diddy snapped. He allegedly broke into Cudi's house and straight up torched his car. It was a clear message. Cassie wasn't allowed to leave, and Diddy was going to make sure she felt trapped.
A brief relationship with Cassie Ventura during this time, and Combs allegedly made threats against him because of it. Scuddy testifying that he believes Combs actually broke into his house and testified that a few months later, a Molotov cocktail was placed on his Porsche, damaging his car. He told the jury he reached out to Combs after his car caught fire and described him with his hands behind his back like a Marvel supervillain. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges, and his defense team says any sexual encounters were all consensual.
Kid Cudi even took the stand saying Diddy broke in, locked his dog in the washroom, and shut off all the security cameras before going wild. There was an investigation, but Diddy, he walked away untouched, again. And that's not the first time. After dodging so many investigations, people are starting to wonder, did Diddy have help from the inside? The way he keeps slipping through the cracks is looking way too suspicious.
Yeah, Kira, I think we're firmly moving into RICO territory here. We're getting past some of the sex trafficking allegations, talking about a criminal enterprise that was allegedly engaged in committing crimes. And so Kid Cudi's testimony goes to trying to prove some of those predicate offenses. He says that Diddy and his team burglarized his home after Diddy found out that he was dating Cassie Ventura, and then shortly thereafter blew up his vehicle, which goes to arson. And so that was really the thrust of the testimony. That was the purpose for putting him on. There were some points scored by defense as well. It was some colorful.
Diddy's legal team keeps claiming he had nothing to do with the arson, but Kid Cudi says otherwise. According to Cudi, years after the incident, Diddy actually came up to him and apologized for the whole thing.
So he said that when he got that phone call from Cassie that he sprung into action, although he was confused about why it would matter if Sean Combs knew that he was dating Cassie, because he had no reason to believe that they were still romantically involved. Remember, Kid Cudi had been dating Cassie, he says, for about a year at this point. He went and he got her from her apartment and he took her to the only place he thought would keep her safe, which is the Sunset Marquis. It's a hotel in LA.
Now let's be real. Would someone who's truly innocent say sorry for something that serious? That's not the move of a man with clean hands. It sounds more like someone trying to smooth things over behind closed doors. And it's raising even more eyebrows about what really went down that night.
And what they find is something called a Molotov cocktail. That was a bottle with liquid in it and a rag that had been set on fire, and somebody had cut the roof of his convertible and dropped it inside. And then we saw pictures of all this damage today, and he said that unfortunately his car could not be repaired. So police collected all of this evidence, and there was some sort of an investigation. But today we heard on cross-examination Brian Steele, who's a very famous attorney out of Atlanta who represented Young Thug in his state RICO case. And he got up there and really tried to poke holes in this idea that Combs was the one who destroyed his Porsche.
Even with Diddy locked up, Cassie still isn't safe. Just days before the trial was set to kick off, witnesses started vanishing, like straight up disappearing. In a tense interview with Piers Morgan, big homie CC didn't hold back. He warned that the witnesses are in serious danger and need protection now.
And whenever these trials come about, the closer you get to the trial date, a lot of things start happening to remove people from the case that are going to strengthen the case for the prosecution. And I feel like we're watching that take place now with one of the male worker guys who provided tapes to the feds. He's disappeared.
This trial might be in court, but the streets are still talking.
So what I've learned is whenever you see a gentleman like this from affluence and power, whenever they have an addiction to MDMA or the drug ecstasy, they call it the love drug. So he's been doing this drug for over 20 years. So that's gonna lead his views skewed when it comes to sexual activity. I believe it's helped turn him into a sexual deviant. And, you know, what type of man wants to see another man urinate in his wife's mouth?
From hidden recordings to missing witnesses and a growing web of shady accomplices, this Diddy trial is peeling back more than just one man's dark past. It's pulling the curtain on an entire system built on silence, power, and fear. But no matter how deep they try to bury the truth, it always finds a way out. We'll be right here, tracking every leak, every wild testimony, and every name that gets dragged into the spotlight. If all this shook you like it did us, smash that like button, subscribe for the latest updates, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay sharp, stay loud, and don't let the truth get buried.